let me tell you a little bit about the history of Bitcoin, why it came into existence, and what it is exactly. So, Bitcoin is a type of money that's not controlled by banks or governments. And, there's been other forms of money in the past where banks and governments didn't control it. You have local community currencies, stuff like that. I mean, you could technically use anything as money because money is just a medium of exchange, right? The only thing that gives money value is that a community of people decide that it has value, right? So as long as enough participants in a society agree that something is worth something or is a medium of exchange, it can help facilitate trade and make our lives a lot easier. I mean, imagine if you had to go out and haggle every day just to get some milk and eggs. You got to find some kind of resource to haggle. I mean, you spend most of your days just trying to get groceries, right? So money makes things very convenient as long as it's sound money, smart money, right? But Bitcoin is the first time that we've had money not controlled by banks and governments on an international level where anyone in the world could participate in this. It's actually a global network. And it was created in 2008 after the financial meltdown that happened with the housing bubble collapse and all these banks going belly up. So it was kind of created as a remedy. And it was founded by an anonymous, mysterious figure named Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who he, she, or they are. They disappeared out of the public eye, but they gave us this gift. Now, Bitcoin was an evolution that came out of the cypherpunk movement. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the cypherpunk movement was this activist movement amongst cryptographers and hackers that started in the 90s. And their whole mission statement was to use technology and cryptography as a means to maximize human liberty and privacy. So one of the things that they've been working on since the late 90s and the 2000s is a form of cryptocurrency, is a form of decentralized money that uses advanced cryptography, right? And this was a process that lasted for probably about a decade or so. And then Satoshi Nakamoto came out with the first functioning working model, which was Bitcoin. But it was an evolution of other prototypes and models, such as Bitgold and Hashcash. So Bitcoin is completely decentralized. And what that means is that there's no central authority that dictates what Bitcoin is, right? So how that works. So, for example, if you look at the money in your bank account, the credits or IOUs that are in your bank account, this is a centralized bank, so it's a corporation who's keeping tabs of this tally. But it's also, those credits are held on a centralized server, right? So whereas Bitcoin is a decentralized network, it's open source, which means that anyone can use the code, they can modify the code. There's been a whole series of other cryptocurrencies called altcoins or alternative coins that arise. It created a whole industry. Various corporations and banks now actually want in, and they've been trying to get into the blockchain industry. And how decentralized works is that it's a network that's controlled by miners and nodes. So what a node is you have the software, and on the software you have an entire record of the ledger, right, of every single transaction that's ever happened on the network, right? And these nodes also have all the rules coded into it in the software, and they communicate with each other to make sure that other nodes and miners are following the rules, that everyone's following consensus. And what miners do is they keep the ledger secure by confirming transactions and stamping them on this ledger. And what they do is they give what's called hashing power, which is like a lottery where they just throw out billions of hashes a second to try to solve this really, really advanced cryptographic math problem. And as soon as one of these, and they use these specialized machines called ASICs to do this, and as soon as a miner finds or solves this problem, what ends up happening is that all the transactions that happen on the network, they kind of timestamp, they bunch them together into a block and they timestamp it on the ledger, right? This is why it's called the blockchain, because then the math problem is evolving from all the previous blocks on the chain, right? So they do this to secure, and they put millions of dollars to secure this network because it is a public ledger, right? And it's the first time we've had such a public ledger. They do this to keep the ledger immutable. What that means is that you can't forge the ledger, you can't, reverse transactions or forge coins or do anything like that, because they're perpetually moving the ledger forward, right, by solving this math problem. So that's basically, Bitcoin in a nutshell.